Well, hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwen, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times, What's on TV and whattowatch.com. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 28th of February 2025, including Kate Hudson in the Netflix sports comedy Running Point, and Dave Gorman's new series of his stand-up show, Modern Life is Goodish, on You.
And we'll also be checking out the return of Paramount's Yellowstone spin-off 1923, starring Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, and new celebrity reality series The Baldwins about actor Alec Baldwin and his family on Discovery Plus. I should say chaotic family at this point. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Anna Maxwell Martin and Rhys Ifans will star in a spin-off from Apple TV Plus's For All Mankind, exploring an alternate version of the space race. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Netflix drama The Whisper Man, featuring Robert De Niro, will centre on a crime writer whose young son is abducted.
You can't get De Niro off the telly these days.
It's everywhere.
Well, 3 American series this week and a homegrown offering as well, which is what we're going to start with, because on You and Dave, it arrived on Monday the 24th of February. It's the return of Dave Gorman, Modern Life is Goodish. And here's a clip.
Dave Gorman here. Welcome to my desktop, where I obsessively stash all the absurdities of modern life. What is going on here? Like the bizarre rules of the alphabet. It's weird that letters can be spelled out as words using letters. Or how moving to the coast can make you immortal. Because moving to Bournemouth gave me 118% chance of survival. It's a never-ending rabbit hole of ridiculousness.
Well, it's been 7 years since we last saw Dave with this show on the telly box, and I've got to say I'm a fan. For the uninitiated, he uses it's recorded in front of a live audience, and he always wears a check shirt. Okay, interesting fact. But he does a PowerPoint presentation, and it's really him looking at the sort of quirks of modern life, all really well observed stuff that is intriguing and funny and interesting. So there's a little bit. It's a bit TV burpish. One element of it. So he has Brian Connolly. He looks back at Brian Connolly and the way he used to introduce celebrity guests so that the audience could kind of guess who was coming on from what he said. That's really good. He looks at the use of those, those pods that are in public spaces that are kind of like meeting pods that you can hire by the hour. He does a very funny sequence about that. He does these things called found poems, which, if you've seen him before, they're made up of comments that people have left under articles on the internet, and they're very amusing. And he has a live string quartet providing the music. So, although ironically, PowerPoint is a bit dated now, isn't it? It's still... Gorman has done lots of really interesting stuff over the years. So he did an experiment where he tried to prove whether astrology really works by following his horoscope to the letter every day. He's tried to locate lots of Dave Gormans all over the world. And so, yeah, I am a Dave Gorman fan. He has a fascinating lens through which he views this modern world of ours. And this series is highly recommended. Welcome back, Dave. Are you a fan, Hannah?
Do you know what? It is quite funny, isn't it? But it's just really, really different. And you say PowerPoint is a bit sort of dated, but I actually wasn't looking at the audience too much, but perhaps you know, it kind of appeals to the demographic, you know, that watch him and that like him. And as you say, he's always wearing that check shirt. And he says that if he wears a T-shirt, he kind of is almost like a disguise because no one recognises him. And half of the audience, or 60% of the audience, turn up in check shirts too. So he's sort of become known as that. And it is just a kind of different take on the crazy world, the crazy modern world that we live in. And I think it's highly relatable to a lot of people, which is why it's so funny and it sort of strikes a chord. So yeah, I think it's a bit different, it's a bit fun, and it's a formula that works.
We're going to move across to Netflix for our next offering. It arrived on Thursday, the 27th of Feb. It's a new 10-part sitcom called Running Point. And here's a clip.
You are the president of the waves. It's shocking. But on behalf of all women, don't ever make a mistake. It looks bad for all of us.
We're a family, sis. We got your back, no matter what people say.
What are they saying?
Just the fact that you're a Nepo baby and you don't know what you're doing, but you're old, so it's like you're like a Nepo crone.
Yep, so this is the latest outing for Kate Hudson. And there's a bit of a stellar cast, actually, because Justin Theroux is also in this. And it struck a chord with me quite quickly because although it's, arguably a bit sort of... it doesn't push necessarily many boundaries. I think its intention is right in that it addresses women in the workplace and the fact that it's still relatively male-dominated, particularly in some areas, sports being one of them. Now, it's called Running Point, and she is appointed as the president of a world-famous basketball team. Now, nepotism plays a big part in here because it's a family business. But she's massively ambitious, and it sets the cat among the pigeons, really, or sends their hairs racing, because essentially all her brothers are all jostling for position. She's a girl, why should she do it? And you get this real kind of sense of a woman in a male-dominated workplace, which I think, without sounding too feministic and kind of, veering this down a different track, I think a lot of women do feel like that in a lot of situations. And I suppose it shines a bit of a light on that because she's ferociously ambitious. She has talent in terms of, what she's doing, her knowledge, and kind of this really is testing her mettle and seeing her sort of steely side. And you also have this really nice dynamic with her best friend who's always there supporting her, which, again, we talk about female empowerment and kind of having friends that kind of pick you up and carry you to the top rather than pushing each other down, which is, a real true sign of friendship. And it's not sort of breaking any real barriers in terms of a storyline, but I think it does shine a bit of a light on women in the workplace. And she it's nepotism, isn't it? She's Goldie Hawn's daughter. She's been in a lot of things, but actually with this, I don't know. I think she does it really well. And I watched something else aside from what I've watched of this. I also watched a kind of like some interviews with her and some of the cast and the directors as well. And it's really interesting listening to them. And everyone kind of raves about working with Kate Hudson and kind of how fun she is. And you see some of the outtakes and kind of the laugh that they're having with each other. And I think they had a really good time. And actually that kind of shines through. So it's looking at a serious side of things. It's got a message. It doesn't really break any huge boundaries. But did I enjoy it? Yes. What do you think, Ian?
I enjoyed it. And I first saw Kate Hudson in the brilliant film Almost Famous, which is about a rock and roll band on tour. And she played the groupie Penny Lane. She was fantastic in that. And of course, as Goldie Hawn's daughter, she should have funny bones. And she does have funny bones. And I think always with a new sitcom, you're slightly worried when you start watching, is it going to be funny? And very quickly, I bought into this. She's got a real kind of presence. She's got great comedic timing. And I mean, you're right, it's a sort of a well-worn plot line of sort of fish out of water, taking over a sports team. But it really works. It's got a really snappy script as well. It's quite rude. I think it's quite in your face. And she's terrific in the lead role. So, pleasantly surprised. I liked it. Over on Paramount Plus, arriving on Sunday the 23rd of Feb, we have Season 2 of the Western 1923. And here's a clip.
What's his name?
Spencer. He's a war hero. The Stone Killer.
Today, we begin making Montana a playground for the elite. I'll destroy everything that falls from.
I'm trying to prevent a war here.
It ain't preventable.
He wants to take this place from us.
So this is a spin-off from Yellowstone, which was sort of the modern-day Western, which starred Kevin Costner as a Montana rancher called Jack Dutton. And anyway, Costner parted ways with that series, and his character was buried at the Yellowstone Ranch. But it spawned a number of spin-offs, one of which is 1923, which, yes, as the title suggests, is set in the past. And it stars, well, talk about star power, Harrison Ford, Helen Mirren. They play Jacob and Cara Dutton, who are his ancestors. It's also got Timothy Dalton in it. They certainly pack a lot in. I'll give you that. So in episode 1, well, someone gets attacked by a mountain lion. Someone else has a sex slave locked up in a cupboard. A sailor gets raped on a ship. There's some bare knuckle boxing. I mean, it's all going on. So it's a bit of a pot boiler in some ways. But come on, with Ford and Mirren, two veterans who are still just highly watchable. There's this great character in it called Spencer, who is Jacob's nephew. He's played by Brandon Sklenar. He's got a terrific moustache, one of the great moustaches on TV. So he's a big game hunter. And I mean, his backstory, I'm not going to ruin it. Go back and watch season 1 if you've not seen it, because you kind of need to know what's going on, because he's been on quite the journey, but he's sort of trying to get home to save the family ranch and also somehow to be reunited with his bride, Alex, played by Julia Schleipfer. Yeah, sometimes it slightly stretches credulity, but it's got plenty going for it. I mean, I grew up watching Westerns like The High Chaparral, so I love this kind of stuff. What about you, Hannah? Do you like this one?
Do you know what? It's hard not to like, isn't it? Like you say, because of the cast. But take them out of it, and in all honesty, I don't think it is for me. I'm not a massive Western fan. I've watched a few, but I don't absolutely love it. And as I say, I think the names are what sort of, appeals to me, and I think the fact that they want to be a part of it means it has to be good, right? That's just kind of like how you feel about it. But to your point you made earlier, it's just a bit too much. I think there's just too much ground covered. I'm not sure that you need every single one of these massive storylines in many ways. It just feels a little bit overpacked, a bit of a sensory overload in places. And so for me, I didn't love it as much as I wanted to love it. As I say, this is not a genre that I love in the same way as you do. So I'm not expecting me to, kind of fangirl it as such. But I kind of thought with them, I would like it more than I did. But I felt there was a bit of a sensory overload.
Well, we're going to finish on Discovery Plus with a new reality show that arrived on Monday the 24th of February. It's called The Baldwins. And here's a clip.
7 children, 6 animals, 2 parents. A wild family. Why are we eating chocolate? Get off your phone. Okay.
Don't be in that pool.
Gross. What's the matter? Happy face. My son lost his mom in the most unthinkable tragedy. This is never something to forget, and we're trying to parent through it.
Oh, Ian, where do I start with this one? Because this is just the most tone-deaf thing I think I've probably ever watched. It's been highly criticised, as you well know, generally, for the timing of this. So this was filmed 2 weeks ahead of the trial. So of course, Alec Baldwin was being questioned and had been arrested. He was up for, I think, manslaughter for the shooting on set where he fired a gun that he didn't think was loaded. So this was done 2 weeks prior to that. So the question, I suppose, is why did they do it? They don't need the money. You'll clearly see that when you watch this. They live in an amazing New York apartment, which is absolutely, fabulous. And then they've got their Hamptons home. So this is not a financial thing, but presumably is a reputational thing. And trying to come over in a way that kind of restores arguably a dented reputation. Now, for me, there's no discussion over the fact that it must have been absolutely harrowing for all of them, all concerned. But this just felt very, very tone deaf to me because actually it's a reality show. It's a fly-on-the-wall documentary about a very chaotic family. They have 7 children, 8 pets. They do have 2 nannies, although you only see a glimpse of one of them at one stage. And I think that's because they're trying to corral not only the children, but the cats and dogs into the car. And there was a main road, and I think they were just trying to stop the children from running into the road. But, that's the only time you saw that nanny. And it felt very shoehorned, the whole shooting situation just felt shoehorned in and uncomfortable, and this sort of moody music comes on and suddenly it changes from Hilaria being all gushing about Alec and him as talking about their children mostly and their life to suddenly talking about something that's incredibly sensitive. A woman's lost her life, a son has lost their mother, a husband has lost his wife, etc., etc., etc. So for me, it just didn't hit right. Don't get me wrong, as a reality show, it kept me watching. I was interested in their life, apart from anything, just wondering how on earth they cope. But I suppose they just have a load of help, is the reality of that. Although, again, as I said, you don't see it that much. But I just felt that it hit a really low point, if I'm honest with you, because there was one stage where, Alec talks about having PTSD after it all, which, he may well have done, of course. And Hilaria saying, I'm not saying people should feel sorry for us, because obviously there's much worse, and obviously, someone's lost their life, etc., etc. But it was a bit, well, why are you talking about it then? What are you feeling you're having to talk about this right now and justify your position? And they talked about how the children were they having to say a special goodbye to Daddy before he went to the court hearing, and they talked about the age. They talked about that she's come under a lot of fire for her Spanish accent. Is she really Spanish? Is she not? Why is it a weird accent? I thought that was a bit silly, really. She speaks quite competently in Spanish and clearly speaks to the children so that they're bilingual. But, it kept me watching, Ian. I like reality shows, but for me, I just thought this is not great timing, if I'm honest with you. And if you're going to do something as serious as that, then at least give it a little bit more airtime than perhaps the maximum of 5 minutes it was given throughout this whole thing. I think it was about that anyway. What did you think, Ian?
Yeah, I agree with you. The timing is inappropriate, and the discussion of the shooting seems very kind of shoehorned in, which makes you wonder, as you say, what was the agenda behind this series? I do like Alec Baldwin, and there's certainly a curiosity value there because, well, obviously he's a massive star, he's rich, there's a big age gap between him and Hilaria, who, a lot of people accused her of being a gold digger, didn't they? He's an older dad because the 7 kids are pretty young. But it's relatively thin gruel, really. Episode 1, the kids go for a haircut, and then they try and get all the kids in the car to go for their holiday in the Hamptons. Very nice work if you can get it. And a lot is made of the fact he's got OCD, so having all those kids and all those pets is difficult for him because he likes everything to be ordered. But they have got 2 nannies. Come on. So. Yeah, I certainly didn't feel the need to watch any more, and there's something about it that just doesn't feel quite right, to be fair. Now we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what you've been binge watching this week.
Well, you reminded me of the Great Pottery Throwdown, which I absolutely adore. I got binge watching that. It's just so great, and I just love it when he cries. It doesn't take much, does it? It's so funny. It makes me laugh when he cries. Just think it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And do you know what? I'm in awe of those people because they're so artistic and brilliant, and nothing really gets them down. They just pick themselves up and go again. I can only imagine me doing it and the clay being on the ceiling, It's great.
It is one of my favourites. I watched one episode of a 3-part documentary series on the iPlayer called Israel and the Palestinians, The Road to the 7th of October, which does give you some interesting background to the Hamas attack and then the conflicts in Gaza. Learned a lot of stuff going back to kind of the days of Sharon, and the fact that there were kind of attempts to set up a 2-state situation that just failed. So yeah, obviously that's so much in the news that it's quite interesting to watch that and get a bit of the backstory. Now, before I talk about next week's offerings, Hannah, we should just flag up. I should have done this in the news, really, shouldn't I? We were lucky enough this week to have a chat with Kyron Thrax, the drag queen and winner of RuPaul's Drag Race, who presents his own spin-off show, Hello, 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 and is currently on tour. So, yes, watch this space. That will be coming as a binge watch special episode very soon.
Can I just say, you want to be listening to that Kyron interview? I really enjoyed that. So much fun. Absolutely brilliant. They are absolutely delightful and so grateful, totally unentitled, and just, yeah, absolutely loved the interview. But going back to next week, we have got crime drama Get Millie Black, which lands on Channel 4 streaming.
Yes, looking forward to that. And ITVX period drama A Cruel Love tells the tragic story of Ruth Ellis, who was the last woman to be executed in the UK. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, listeners, keep